Good evening, welcome. We're just going to let a few more people trickle in and we'll get started promptly.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Bamberg. I'm the Director of Admissions at Hillbrook School, and we are so excited to welcome you tonight. I would like to introduce Marisol Ornelas, who's the Associate Director of Enrollment for the Upper School at Hillbrook.
Hi, everyone. Tonight's virtual information session is the first of a series that we will be focusing on specific highlights for our upper school. We invite your family to ask questions using the Q&A feature here in this program. After our presentation, we will definitely leave some time for questions and answers. So tonight we are joined by Mark Silver, our head of school, Mike Peller, our upper school head, Ilsa Doman, our director of teaching and learning, and Charlie Berkeley, our director of college counseling. So to begin, I would love to invite the head of school, Mark Silver, to give a few welcome remarks and talk a little bit about the history of the school. Thanks.
Thanks, Marisol. It is so wonderful to see all of you tonight, or to have everybody joining us tonight. This is my 15th year at Hillbrook, and it is truly an extraordinary moment over these last 4 weeks as we have made the official transition from a JK-8 into a JK-12 and launched our new upper school program. We're excited tonight to share with you a lot about that program. Only 4 weeks in, the program is already really coming to life. I think there's two things in particular that I would encourage you to listen for tonight. One is that we as a school, and then particularly as we look at our upper school, are prioritizing agency and engagement. This is a challenging and rigorous academic program, and it's a program that will expect students to be able to drive their own learning. And they will do that under the watchful eye of our extraordinary teachers. But it's a program that really it asks a lot of students. And again, it will give them a lot of agency in terms of enabling them to be able to reach their full potential. And then second of all, I think you'll hear a lot about our city as classroom model. One of the biggest differentiators for our program is our urban location. We have already seen that come to life in the first few weeks during our immersive program, in which we connected with over 34 different groups and individuals in San Jose. It's been incredible taking advantage of this location and seeing how this location and the ability to engage with the city really makes this educational experience come to life for students and for adults. Again, excited to have you here this evening, excited to have you spend a long day. Excited to have you here this evening. I'm going to turn this over to our fabulous head of upper school, Mike Peller.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with all of you tonight. Last Friday, we had this amazing culminating event after our immersives, where students spent 3 weeks studying, using the city as a classroom, studying key topics. And one student said to me, and I said, what was the key learning? He said, I've learned to see problems as opportunities. I've learned to see them through the lens of solutions. And this is exactly the work that we're doing with the Hillbrook Upper School. We ask these questions: what matters to you and what are you doing about it? It is so easy in this world to see lots of challenges and crises, from climate crisis to global unrest. And what we want to encourage in our students is to embrace all of these as opportunities full of hope. We want kids to step into uncertainty and have the confidence and competence to do something about it. And so we need to create learning that encourages that way of thinking. The current educational system is built on an industrial model. It's over 100 years old, but instead what we are building is the high school that all students deserve, a school that encourages students to reach beyond and make a difference in the world. And I want to turn this over right now to our fabulous Director of Teaching and Learning, Ilse Doman, to connect how this expansion of the high school is connected deeply to a long-running 88-year-old high school, or school rather.
Thanks, Mike and Mark. Welcome, everybody. As Mike mentioned, we're really excited, and one of the joys of my job as the Director of Teaching and Learning, it's my 12th year at the school, and I get to spend all day visiting classrooms and working with different teams of teachers, from spicy math in kindergarten to developing literacy groups in 3rd and 4th to challenge pull-out groups in the 6th and 7th grade. And then I'm privileged right now to be teaching a 9th grade course on the science of self, helping students understand themselves as learners. So I get this chance to sort of see across our program, JK to 8 for the last 11 years and now up into the 9th grade, and see how really our campus in the upper school, though it is an urban campus, though it is serving an older group of children, is really an extension of the vision and mission that we've had as a school for 88 years now. And that's preparing students with the skills and confidence that they need to achieve their dreams and reach beyond themselves to make a difference in the world. You'll learn a little bit more tonight about our immersives program and the way that we chose to start the 9th grade school year with a 3-week course that was really centered on this topic of what it was that children dreamed of and the ways that they wanted to make a difference in the world. And I'm excited to walk you through some pieces of our program and the ways in which this new division really is an extension of our school. So some things you'll hear tonight, we really wanted children to be able to expand into an urban campus because our own 8th graders are really ready for it. One of the reasons that we talked starting several years ago, when the board and senior leadership and a number of faculty and families got together and started to explore the idea of expanding into a new division, was this idea of giving our own students their 8th grade year back, having them continue to enjoy being the age that they are and not feeling like they're only thinking about looking ahead, but also really equipping them with the experiences that developmentally are perfect for them. And so when we thought about the idea of a high school, we knew that students would be ready for something a little bit more grown up, a little bit more connected to a city. And we were really excited to find ourselves with the opportunity to remodel and eventually move into 2 historic buildings in downtown San Jose. They're right across the street from each other. They both have fabulous histories that aren't the subject of this presentation tonight, but we can get into them at some other point. And you're looking here at the Armory building, which is deep into construction and which will be open for students starting. Any families who are here with prospective 9th graders, this is where your children would start their school year next year. We're eager to tell you tonight about the ways in which this city as classroom model advances our vision and mission as a school, but also in a way that really meets children where they are as 9th and 10th graders, and also the ways in which we've designed our program to be centered on well-being of students and on their engagement in their learning, as opposed to feeling like school is something that is done to them. So this is an example of our schedule, and this is a sample 9th grade schedule. And we encourage students and families when they come to connect with us for one-on-one tours to think about the way that schools spend their time as a statement of their values. And so we point out a few things here about the ways in which we designed this schedule to really be centered on well-being and on engagement. The first thing you'll notice is that students are taking only 3 larger classes per day. So on Monday, they have Math 2, World Literature, Modern World History in this example. And that's so that these classes can be longer and they can accommodate deeper learning. It means that within an 80 or 90-minute block, you're able to do more than one kind of thing. You're able to begin a design process, prototype something, and then still have time to have a review and collect some feedback. Or you're able to start a new concept, do some independent or small group work, present your thinking in math, and then hear ideas back. It's also built around the idea that we're using the city as a classroom, which is happening so much already. You'll get to see some nice videos in a few minutes of some of the ways we've done that. But we've been really building these partnerships with communities, community organizations, business leaders, government leaders, all around our campus. And so these longer blocks also enable us within the class period to be out into the city. So you might be studying world literature and then walk to the King Library, which is our students' library, where they all have library cards and have practiced already in week 4 how to navigate the stacks, but also how to navigate the online databases that gives them access to. So these longer blocks for deeper learning are really centered around this idea that student engagement and student learning is driven by purpose and driven by a chance to work on meaningful activities for an extended period of time. But it also means, coming back to the idea of student well-being, that when children go home each night, they're only preparing for 3 classes the next day. So what we've seen, despite research, despite I think at this point knowing much better, is that many schools are still existing in a traditional model where students go to maybe 5, 6, or 7 classes in one day. They go home and the homework is for 5, 6, or 7 classes. And we know that doesn't support students actually settling into something or doing the kind of reflective and deep thinking and practice we want them to be doing. Another thing you'll notice in the schedule is that twice a week there's this red exploratory class. And this was an idea that came about after we had visited lots of different schools around the country to get sort of kind of pick and pull all the best ideas that we wanted to bring to our program. And we started to notice and talk about the fact that even as 9th graders, children are starting to make decisions about the classes they enroll in based on what they think they will get a good grade in, or based on what they think will look good for college. They're picking things that they already are good at. And while we want children to be learning about things that they like and that they're good at, we also want high school to still be a time of exploration, of just trying something, maybe something that you're not sure you're going to like, or that might be too hard for you. You might not be good at it, but sort of keeping that risk-taking, which is one of our core values, take risks, and curiosity, which is another of our core values, at the center of the experience. So these exploratory classes meet twice a week for 70 minutes. And they are untranscripted, ungraded, and not homework bearing. So students can't put them on their transcript even if they want to. And we really are using them as a way to introduce children to topics that they might not have tried before, but that could lead into maybe advanced studies in an area or club extensions, athletics. We're offering a range of things starting, they change quarterly. So children have a chance to take 4 different things throughout one school year in this exploratory model. And for example, in the coming second quarter, we're going to offer everything from yoga to advanced Spanish to math advanced group work to digital storytelling to jam sessions, sort of band music. So it's a really wide variety of things. And we've got lots more exciting stuff coming up in Q3 and 4. The last thing that I want to say about the schedule that you're seeing here is that 3 times per week, you'll notice on Monday, Wednesday morning, and Friday midday, we have a student support block that's woven into the middle of the day. And this was also an idea that we borrowed from peer schools as we toured around to figure out what would best align with our values of student well-being and engagement, which was that students should have access to both support for things that are challenging, but also to extensions for areas where they're ready for more challenge within the school day, instead of expecting children to take care of that after school, which might then compete with sports commitments, family commitments, theater commitments, which we also have after school every day. And so we wanted to build this student support time into the school day. This is a great chance for students to connect with a teacher if they've been absent, connect with a teacher or a peer if something is difficult and they want more practice, continue group work on a project maybe that they're doing in one of their classes, and then also connect with teachers that they're just excited to learn more from, to get in little book groups or to have extensions. I was leaving the room yesterday and a child was leaving 9th grade world history class, and he had this atlas in his hand and he said, "I wish I could just have one of these, you know?" And the teacher said, "You can come back tomorrow morning and read it in student support." So I love that that's the kind of work that's happening in that space. And you'll see also in the schedule that we have sports and co-curriculars offered every day after school. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So like many of our peer schools who have done really great things in teaching and learning, we are excited to be offering students an integrated math program. This combines topics in algebra, algebra 2, pre-calc, geometry, intro to stats, and intro to computer coding woven together as an integrated study of mathematic topics across a 3-year sequence. This year, just with our 9th grade class, we have students taking Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. We even have a handful of students who are taking what will come after Math 3, which is multivariable calculus. And in addition, Mike will talk later about other advanced electives that'll be available to students in math once they're finished with this 3-year integrated sequence. In science, they'll be beginning in 9th grade a 2-year series in biochemistry. And then starting in their junior year, they'll have the choice to take either physics or some other advanced elective. I'm sure that we're going to be offering something in environmental sciences early on because it's already something we have a lot of expertise on the faculty for and also strong interest from students. English and history in 9th grade are focused on world literature and modern world history. We selected those to be in tandem so that students can really be exploring the themes that are not only so relevant to the challenges and opportunities of a city like San Jose, but also getting ready to venture out into the world in our spring immersive to look at other cities and places around the world and what their challenges and opportunities have been for human thriving. In language, students are selecting between Spanish and Mandarin and also taking a 3-year sequence. We can talk more in the Q&A section about diagnostics, but children will enter at all different places based on what they're ready for. And once they've completed that 3-year sequence, they're able to take advanced electives in culture and conversation. In integrated arts, all 9th graders take an introduction to visual inquiry and fabrication. We have a fabulous lab for things like woodshop, 3D printing, visual arts, rapid prototyping, and we want to be sure that all students coming in have the confidence and competence in all of those tools so that they can use them for all sorts of purposes. And so this course is intended in its first semester to really lay a foundation of common understanding of all of the various tools, for everything from woodworking to 3D printing and laser cutting, so that then students can start to apply their arts learning to projects that are centered on real world problems. And so in the spring of 9th grade, students will work with our design teacher and the architects, taking advantage of the fact that our buildings are under construction, to look at human-centered design and even to design a little piece of the building, the Moyer building, which will be our larger academic building that'll still be under construction heading into the beginning of next school year. As I mentioned, that exploratory class right now, all 9th graders are taking a Science of Self course focused on understanding their own learning and the cognitive psychology and neurological findings that have come to light in the last 10 to 15 years about the way that learning really works so that they can feel really confident and have great strategies for being successful in school. That course also integrates some topics in wellness around emotion regulation and responses to stress. And then starting in Q2 through 4, you can see just a sampling of some things that students might choose to take. Those become choices for the rest of the 9th grade year. And Mike is going to talk just in a moment about our immersives program. It's a 3-week course, and we just finished the first one. So all students start the first 3 weeks, and then all students will end in 9th grade the last 3 weeks of the school year, also in a social impact focused immersive course. And you'll get to hear more about that in a moment.
What makes I'm just smiling so much right now. What makes this so special is that when we were doing these presentations last year, when we were trying to encourage the first founding class, and I say the first founding class because we really see the first 4 years as founding classes. When we were trying to encourage that class to come and we were sharing the different courses, they were still just an idea. They were something that we knew would work well, but weren't actually in play in this moment. And when I see these courses up listed on the screen now, I'm just thinking of earlier today when I walked into a Spanish class and the Spanish 2 class was singing this song from Maná, a great Spanish-speaking band out of Mexico. And actually the class is going to be going to see that concert in the SAP Center in a week for a fun social event. I then walked into the integrated arts class, and students were in a design thinking challenge, sort of where they were building towers to see how much weight they could hold on the tower. And then I walked into a math class, and their kids were up standing around whiteboards doing math problems. So this curriculum is already coming to life. in the ninth grade year. But we also want to talk about what's ahead and look at this whole 4-year program. And so Ilse did a really great job talking about those ninth grade classes. To dig in a little bit into the what's coming after ninth grade and beyond, in science, science starts off with a 2-year sequence in biochemistry. So we're integrating the topics traditionally that occur in biology and chemistry, but there's such richness in teaching them in an interdisciplinary way. And then in 11th grade, students will either take a physics or an advanced climate science course. There's a requirement of taking at least 3 years of science, though we will encourage and expect that most students will take 4. One of the things that is most excited about our facilities is that we're building out a student research lab, so that when students get really excited and motivated by a topic, they'll be able to go to their teacher and say, I want to actually pursue this in a meaningful way. And they can reserve space in the student research lab to have ongoing research that is independently done. We anticipate that there will be just as much excitement around our sports program and our theater program as there will be about students presenting their own original research at scientific conferences. In terms of the math program, Ilse described the rationale behind an integrated math curriculum. And after that, after students finish Math 3, we're going to have a whole range of advanced topics, from single and multivariable calculus to advanced statistics, cryptography, linear algebra, and more. And as she mentioned, this morning, actually, I was teaching a group of 2 students in multivariable calculus, because that's where we are, that's where they are in terms of their learning, and we will ensure that we're meeting students and challenging them appropriately with a just right challenge. In humanities, students start with a modern world history in 9th grade, and then in 10th grade move on to a US history course. That it's intentionally paired in English in 10th grade with an American Lit class, so these courses can be in conversation with one another. And then going back to history, in 11th grade, students will be choosing from many different civics electives, because we want to ensure that we are graduating students that are civically minded. And then that will fulfill their 3-year requirement, though once again, we encourage students to take an additional 4th year of history. In English, after the 10th grade American Lit class, they have to continue on with an 11th and 12th grade class, but these will all be electives. We want to ensure that we are providing students with a huge different range of different courses based on their interests. And in fact, it will be the founding classes working with the original founding teachers who will help design what those advanced classes look like. So if you're a student that's like, oh, I really always wish there could be a class in this, you will come here, help motivate some interest in that course, and you'll see that course next year in the course offering. That is what it means to be part of a founding school. And then in terms of world languages, once again, we're offering Mandarin and Spanish, and we will ensure that we're meeting the range of students' abilities there. We do not offer AP courses, and we're proud not to. Like most excellent independent schools around the country, we are building a set of independent advanced studies courses. Just for a little bit of context here, because this is a little bit new to the South Bay, where many of the schools do still offer APs. It was about 20 years ago when Phillips Exeter, a very well-known school in the Northeast, said, actually, we can provide better instruction, better curriculum if we design our own independent curriculum. When they made that decision, many schools followed suit. And at this point, so many schools are saying, like, let us actually challenge students in relevant and meaningful ways. And so to give you a context of what these courses look like, this is a set of possible advanced studies classes that we'll offer. Things like climate justice or dystopian literature, looking at atmospheric chemistry or drug design. And once again, these courses will be recognized by the UC system as advanced classes. They will be seen as equal, if not more challenging than AP classes. And more important, these are going to be incredibly interesting and relevant classes that are asking students to engage in learning that is important to them and to the world. This is how we are going to empower our students to thrive in uncertainty, to give them practice in problems that don't have easy solutions. And then additionally, I want to just reiterate what I said earlier. You will be a part of helping us to design some of these courses with connection with our faculty. Some examples of the rich classes that we're offering. Ilsa mentioned earlier the integrated arts class, but I want to talk a little bit more about this in the fall of this course. Students are going to be studying, like, how do we design and fabricate in 3 dimensions, from using the woodshop tools to our digital fabrication. They're going to go from a place of creative inquiry to go from a place of I'm just interested in how do we create beautiful things and developing a sense of aesthetic. But then in the spring, through the lens of architecture, they're going to learn about human-centered design. How do we use empathy and design for users, and specifically design space for users? What will be really exciting for the first couple of classes as we're building out our 2 campuses, our 2 buildings, the Moira building and the Armory building. Classes in the first couple of years will have the opportunity to design space on our campus. So groups of kids might be designing around, how do we design space for collaboration? Or how do we design space for rest and relaxation? Or how do we design space for effective studying? And the opportunity for students to design and see their designs actually implemented will help make that much more clear that students are going to have their fingerprints all over this school as founders. And now I want to talk a little bit about the Reach Beyond Immersives that Ilsa alluded to. These are 3-week courses that happen in the fall and in the spring. But rather than just hearing me describe them, we have a beautiful video that we want to share with you that'll give you a taste of what this looks like.
Learning should be connected to community. Learning should be rooted in time and culture and geography that can happen in real-world contexts.
The job of school should be to make it engaging. And the most important way to engage people is to help them see the relevance of it and to then actually get them doing things and not just sitting and listening.
The immersives are designed to help students see how the skills they learn in school have practical application into how they can create social impact in their community.
And that helps to give them this balance between both skills-focused educational experiences in things like data analysis, research, social entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence, but also this field studies on the ground experience.
We're not only helping students understand their civic engagement, we're also allowing youth voice to be at the center of conversations that have historically been adult only.
There's this exchange of learning with students and organizations that students are able to incorporate their knowledge and the skill sets that we're building here. Everything that we're doing is really about building relationships and learning.
If we want them to be able to step into a world with complex problems and to be both confident and competent, and maybe even thrive in ambiguity, then we need to give them practice in that.
And so you're looking at that footage was just from the last 3 weeks. So in the first 3 weeks of the school year, students started in their first Reach Beyond Immersive. This is a transcripted, graded, UC approved social impact interdisciplinary course. And students were, I'll tell you a little bit about the structure so you get a little more sense of what it was that they were learning and doing all day. And the next slide. So the way that this course was framed is that children had a choice of 3 different options for their field studies, each of which was centered around a topic important to the downtown of San Jose, just right outside the doorstep of our campus. The first group was doing their field studies in water, the history of water in San Jose and the management of watersheds, and then also challenges that the city has as it faces increasing drought and impacts of climate change on water use for its citizens and all of their various needs. The second group of field studies was around civics and action and connected to political, business, and community organizer leaders in downtown San Jose. And each of them was able to bring, they met with 17 different people, each of whom brought this lens of what matters to them and the challenge that they're most focused on and the community that they're serving, and then also the differences between those 17 and the ways that they're tackling that work. So we heard from people who started associations with other business leaders or decided to design a product or a business in a certain way, or who are working in government at all different levels. The third field studies group was looking at art as activism. Downtown San Jose is a really rich area for publicly funded art, and many of it is designed to tell the story of different groups of people who have historically and currently lived in San Jose, and to share messages that are important to them. And so students were able to meet with bunches of artists, walk around and see a lot of different kinds of art, and think about the ways in which art shapes a city and shapes the conversation and understanding of the people who live in that city about their neighbors, and about the ways in which they can treat each other really well and move forward group projects. And that group got to meet a bunch of different people also, and didn't only look at 2D art. They also met with gallery owners and curators, and people who perform spoken word poetry and different kinds of performance art. So that was really exciting. Each afternoon, they spent time in their field studies group, but in the morning, students took 4 different skills-based classes, and those are the ones that you're seeing here. So we sat down almost a year ago now, and we said, what are the skills that 9th graders are really needing to build that will help them to be more effective in their field studies, that will help them to design and pursue topics and projects that are really interesting to them and give them that confidence and competence. And so students took a data analysis class with their math teacher, thinking about single variable data and ways to analyze its center and its spread, and ways to think about bias in data and whether or not data belongs in a set or not. They also met with world leader and expert in artificial intelligence, who is part of our parent community, and they were able to learn from him all about the history of artificial intelligence, people's longstanding interest in machines and automata going way back into early history, and then the early language models and machine learning, and how today's artificial intelligence that's just coming out in the last several months is substantially different, and why that is, and what the architecture behind it is. But then they also really thought about the ways that people interact with artificial intelligence. So we did some activities together looking at ways to solve the same problem, either with our human brain power, or with Python coding, or with ChatGPT, and then we compared what are actually the differences in the process behind those 3 different processes, or between those 3 different entities solving that problem, what's really going on. And then what are the ways in which our students can be not only smart engineers of artificial intelligence, be aware of their use of it, even in places where it might seem sort of invisible, but then also start to develop the skills for prompt engineering and for understanding what AI can do for them as they move forward into their academic careers and eventually beyond. They took a research course with me looking at the databases that they can have access to through our partnership with the San Jose Library, public library at San Jose State University, and they practiced finding sources, summarizing those sources, writing bibliographies, but we also did a lot of work on just understanding main types of information. Where can you get information for a project, from first person account to expert interview to research article? And what are the differences between those kinds of sources? What are their pros and cons? Finally, they took a course with our director of the Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship, Annie Makala, thinking about social impact in the context of the United Nations SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and then also seeing different examples from across different kinds of industry, and ways that business leaders, community organizers, parents, consumers, educators can take something that matters to them and make a difference in it through just so many different kinds of ways. And so after taking these skills courses every morning, students would then go into their field studies ready to apply and do assignments and projects that connected their data analysis to water data, the water samples that they had collected, or their research skills to an article review that they were doing for their civics course.
All right, so we had a chance to look at these 3 topics that we studied for the fall immersive, but what was most impressive beyond just what they were studying is what they then did with that. We want students to act on their learning and to share their learning. We want to build in students the capacity to be persuasive storytellers, to engage an audience. We fundamentally believe that students are capable of doing great things, and it is our responsibility as a school to create the resources and support that give students the opportunity and the amplification to share their work. So what we want to do right now is share a video of the final day for this immersives, where students were presenting in front of 100 plus folks on the work that they did. And so Marisol, will you share the video? What our students produced in 3 weeks, in the last 3 weeks, was absolutely remarkable. They spoke with authority and confidence. Parents left the event saying, I had no idea that I would leave having learned so much. We also had a bunch of educational leaders in the audience, and they said what our students did as ninth graders in the first year of the high school in their first 3 weeks was more impressive than what most seniors are doing for their capstone project. We are so proud of our students and all that they did. And we want to think about, well, what next? And so what next in the context of immersives, as we've talked about, is the spring immersives that will conclude after the modern world history class and after the world literature class. Our students will have a chance to now not just have San Jose as their classroom, but have the world as their classroom. We'll be taking a course focused on political justice to Argentina, another course focused on climate justice to Alaska, and we'll be exploring the questions, how does geography, culture, and place create the capacity for social change? It is this central question that will allow our students to go and constantly be learning from other communities so that we can come back and positively impact our own community. We also want to make sure that as we're designing these courses, we're anchoring our courses into best practice. So our courses are built around the UN, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which help give concrete clarity to the focus of each of the courses. And then as we look ahead to the future into 10th and 11th grade, what you'll see are some potential Reach Beyond immersives for the future. On the left-hand side, these are our Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship lenses, different lenses that we can bring to doing social impact work. So thinking about finance or systems or story or design. And on the right-hand column are potential courses. So maybe a course in impact investing or regenerative agriculture. We are excited to be in the process right now of kind of finally building these next cohort of classes. One of the courses, though, that all of our students will take in either 10th or 11th grade is a robotics for social impact class. This is one of the places where students will have exposure to coding along with their the math class, where they'll also be introduced to mathematical computation skills. But in this robotics for social impact class, they'll learn Python coding. They'll learn how to do custom fabrication, so building for a specific use. And in terms of that specific use, once again, they're going to be practicing human-centered design. So how do we design for a specific user? And all through the lens of a social entrepreneurship. And I want to introduce our Director of College Counseling, all set up our students for success in the college process.
Hi, everyone. A few moments ago, Mike had said, what comes after this? And of course, what comes after all of this is college for our students. And so I feel so fortunate to be part of Hillbrook from the very beginning of this upper school, and being able to know and work with our students in a variety of contexts, but also to really stay on top of all of the admission trends that are going on, so that each year I can share that information, work with students, and help really position them themselves to find the very best fit for the college that they will eventually attend. So often with college counseling and the college admission process, there's this sense of this changing landscape that we must adapt to. And certainly there are changes that are happening all the time. There are headlines that we all are greeted by as we look at various news sources. And in fact, this week I'm attending the NACAC conference, which is the largest professional conference for college counselors, college admissions professionals, community-based organizations, and having the chance to connect with those people who are setting the policy and telling them about Hillbrook and really preparing to be conveying this information to our future Hillbrook College applicants. From the very beginning, it has been clear to me that Hillbrook Upper School is uniquely preparing students for not only the college admission process, which I want to share a couple of examples in the next slide, but also their lives that happened in college and beyond. So on the next slide here, I had a little bit of fun doing this, putting this together, because these are current application essays. So some of you who are here today may even have college applicants in your house, and some of these are essays that you might encounter, or they might encounter over the course of the next few weeks or months. And so these are three that just immediately connected me with those skills and questions that our students are already grappling with just 3 weeks into their high school career. So the first question, what is the most significant challenge that society faces today? You already saw so many examples of that. 50 words is a bit of a challenge, but our students are ready for it. Tell us about something that brings joy. And this was actually an essay that's come up for multiple colleges. So the first one was from Stanford, the second one is from Yale, and this third question would just be such a wonderful match for our founding students. If you were tasked with creating a new college tradition, what would you propose and how would you promote community within your idea? So I think that these, the questions that colleges ask in their application their applications really reflect their values and what they're seeking in a student body. And if it's evident after a few weeks that our students are growing and developing these qualities, I'm just so excited for how they will be able to communicate these things in 3 years when they're applying to college themselves. And then as we go on to the next slide, looking at the title here of this report through Challenge Success, the nonprofit, and in this case, they surveyed over 100,000 students and came to this conclusion that is very much the philosophy at Hillbrook and of our college counseling office, which is the idea of fit over rankings. And as there is this changing landscape that we might see in college counseling, and often those changes are talking about test scores or declining admit rates. One really positive change that I am starting to see more and more is this shared sense of student well-being. How do we facilitate a really strong match? And looking at things like the research in this report that says engagement in college is more important than where a student attends, and that college selectivity is not the most important aspect of this process. And in fact, it's not a viable predictor of student learning, job satisfaction, or well-being. And I think it's important to say that it's not that our students won't attend schools that have a top ranking, but that cannot be the driver of their process. And it has been incredibly gratifying for me, even this week, as I've been visiting colleges, to hear what are the most important aspects of their school communities. And so I'm just looking at a note that I was really excitedly scribbling down, was that a college was saying that that mentorship, community building, authentic research with a backdrop of compassion were really the elements of their successful program. And then perhaps the part that just struck me most was the idea of a student leaving whole from a college program. And I think that you can can see that very idea of well-being, wellness, engagement, belonging that are central at Hillbrook are values that are being shared, across education all the way up to higher education. So it's an exciting time to be at Hillbrook, to be working with students as we inch towards this process. But none of these things can really be created without a great deal of intention. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Mike so we can talk a little bit about the intentionality of our program.
I hope that you can tell that we are incredibly excited about the work that is happening here. This is a historic moment for Hillbrook as we expand into a high school, building off of an 88-year tradition of excellence in educating the whole child. And in describing the various programmatic differentiators, we also think it's important for us to ground some of the logistics here, so that we can think about the possibility as you were thinking about how will this work in our lives. So a couple things to share. One, currently our campus is open from 7:45 to 6 p.m. It is staffed by our faculty as well as a security guard during that time. But in terms of the academic school day, the school day begins at 8:45 and runs to 3:15, and that's when our academic classes meet. Following our academic classes from 3:30 to 5:30, we have co-curriculars, and currently we're offering four athletic teams, and we're currently in the middle of our fall theater production. And then how do we get to school? Well, transportation is something that we take very seriously. We are building a school that doesn't yet exist. A school like ours doesn't yet exist, neither in the South Bay nor up the peninsula. And we want to ensure that students who are seeking a school like this, where they will be seen and known and challenged appropriately, where their work will be grounded in place and relevance, that they'll be able to get to us. And so we have about 10 students every day who are taking the Caltrain down together from up the peninsula. We have a shuttle that picks them up at Diridon Station in San Jose and shuttles them to class to make sure that they're in our campus 10 minutes before class starts. Many of our families live over in the Los Gatos area because that's where the lower middle school is located. And so we have a bus that shuttles students to and from, both leaving at the end of the academic day at 3:15 as well as at the end of co-curriculars. And lastly, we have a number of students who are using the VTA, which is the local light rail, to get in and around the city from their home to school. And I skipped over one. We have one student who's on the East Bay who is taking BART to and from school. So the options to get to school, we want to make sure that we are as accessible as possible for all families. And I think lastly, what I'll say is this opportunity of being a founder is there's a whole curriculum that you will learn in these 4 years that are deeply unique to our time of this school. You will be part of this entrepreneurial moment of building a school collaboratively with the faculty and the other students. And how amazing is it to, in Silicon Valley, an area that knows so much about entrepreneurship, at a school, Hillbrook, that focuses on social entrepreneurship, to be in this historic moment of this entrepreneurial move to building a high school. Students will build all of these skills around how do you start something, how do you move an idea, how do you bring kids together. And this is such a powerful learning that we don't want any student to overlook.
Thank you so much, Mike. We invite you to learn more and read more about our upper school in our course catalog. So if you have your phone handy, we have the QR code. If not, you can find our course catalog on our website at hillbrook.org upper school. And here is a list of our upcoming admission events. So tonight is the academic program. We have several other webinars that are going to be happening and a couple of our open houses. We encourage your families to come to see one of these webinars. The registration is the same as tonight, and also the open houses. We also have a number of visit days that we'll have at the upper school that you can have your child come and shadow one of our 9th graders and understand what it's like to live a day in the life of a Hillbrook student. And here are some key admission dates that we have. Hillbrook does not require you to submit an application for you to sign up for a visit day, so your family has plenty of time to submit your application. If for any reason you are having difficulty getting school records or any kind of teacher recommendations, please contact the admissions department directly, and we can figure out how to best complete your application. And lastly, for those families applying for flexible tuition, the flexible tuition decision will come at the same time as our admission decision. So thank you. That wraps up our formal program for tonight. We'll spend the next about 5-10 minutes in some Q&A, and we'll put everyone back up on here so we can be. Okay. So let's see here. The first question here we have is, maybe for Mike, what is the size of the ninth grade class?
So current size of the ninth grade class is 37 students. We plan on next year building that out, so we'll probably get to about 40 to 45 students in that founding class, and are anticipating sort of somewhere in the 40 to 45 range for the class of 2028.
Yeah. And thank you. And it looks like here we have another question with how do you support students with learning differences like dyslexia? Great question. Maybe.
Ilsa, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I shouldn't have just taken a bite. We, our director of student support oversees a team of folks that include learning specialists. We have an upper school learning specialist. We have processes for pulling in information that's already known to families by families for students who are new to us, but also for pursuing avenues to get more information about students if we discover that students are having a challenge with something like reading once they're in our program. We then have a accommodation system, so students can have lots of different kinds of supports and strategies in the classroom that are shared by all faculty, with our director of student support and learning support person sort of overseeing that process and being able to check in with your child more regularly to make sure that the supports are working for them, and then being in conversation with your family so that if something needs to change, then we can all be working on that together.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ilsa. And the next question is maybe for Mike here. How are you building out faculty as you add grade levels? Good question.
Yeah, thanks for this question. This is, Jessica, I appreciate this question. Hiring is a really joyful process, and we were incredibly fortunate to hire a truly world-class group of expanding faculty. And I want to talk a little bit about sort of the process for hiring typically in independent schools, and then why we are so fortunately positioned. So in most independent schools, almost all independent schools follow the same timeline, which is somewhere around December and January. There are conversations that head of school, division head is having with faculty to see are the faculty returning next year. And so sometimes faculty will decide to leave. And then at that point, between January and February, almost all schools go into the search process and are in this limited pool to search for the highly talented folks. And so it's a little bit of a fight there. Because we are growing strategically year over year, because we don't have to worry about replacing folks, we actually are able to hire in the off season, and that's, I think, why we got such a great yield last year. So we are finalizing what our sort of hiring needs are in the next couple of weeks, and in early October we'll be launching our search for the next cohort of faculty, which we plan to wrap up by sometime in mid-January, in part because they'll begin to do some culture work of getting on board into the school, and in part because we know that our new families will want to be introduced to the new faculty. We run not just national searches, but international searches, and then tap into our respective networks to ensure that we're bringing some of the most innovative, thoughtful, and compassionate educators. So we will be intentionally building out that team over time to ensure that students have the opportunity to learn with and from inspiring human beings.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. looks like we don't have any more questions. I thank you for all your responses. And I'm going to pass it over to Melissa Banberg, our Director of Enrollment Management. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out to admissions at Hillbrook. We'll be happy to take your calls, your emails, et cetera, et cetera. So Melissa, go ahead.
Thanks, Marisol. Just a thank you to everyone that spent the last hour with us. This was our first of many webinars, so we hope that you register for others, spend a lot of time on our campus, send your students to us for a visit day to get to know our teachers and our students and our admin. Please reach out to any of us on this webinar today. If you have other questions, we're happy to direct you in the right direction. Have a good night, everyone.